Hello, fellow Scratchers! Everyone knows multi-touch joysticks are not possible in Scratch, right? Well, that's what I thought until a Scratcher named Alexandra Varian shared with me a clever trick that simply blew me away. Yes, here I am, scratching on my phone, left thumb on a thumbstick, and simultaneously able to click with my right thumb. What witchcraft is this? I kid you not, this is native Scratch. Can you imagine the possibilities? Whether you want to move and jump, or move and shoot, or perform those impossible ceiling crouches in Apple, well, that is exactly what we've been waiting for. Want to know how this works? Then keep watching. First, we'll explain the basics, and then we'll build a working, backpackable multi-touch joystick of your own, all ready to drop into your best games. So cool. The best way to explain this wizardry is to look at exactly how Scratch handles mobile clicks and drags. This little script will do the job. It just continually moves the cat sprite to the mouse pointer and says whether the mouse button is down with a true or false otherwise. If I tap the screen with my finger, Scratch treats this as a mouse click, true, and Scratchy follows my finger wherever it may go. Take my finger off the screen and Scratchy says false. Well, that is all as we would expect. But here comes a problem. A second touch on the screen neither changes the cat's position or affects the mouse down state. It still reports true as it did before. So the second touch was completely undetectable. Bummer. But wait, this is weird. Having released the second touch, I can keep dragging the cat around, but the cat is reporting false, even though our first finger never left the screen. It appears Scratch only reports the last change of any touch, whether pressing or releasing. In which case, yes, from now on, as long as we keep holding the first finger to the screen, we can measure the movements of the first touch with the mouse X and Y, and the clicking of the screen with the mouse down. It's that simple. That's not to say there aren't still a few hurdles to make this work smoothly, like how to deal with that pesky first failed click, and how to detect when the player releases our thumbstick. But honestly, these little problems are what makes coding really fun. Guys, enough talk already, let's get scratching! Oh no, there's a most dangerous and horrible looking chasm here, and we need to get Scratch Cat across in safety. So we need some control mechanism. Make a new sprite, naming it Stick. We are going to define both keyboard and touching controls all in one place to make our life simpler. When green flag clicked, go to front. This is more important than you might imagine. The sprite at the front will begin running its scripts first, so if we want our keyboard and mobile controls to not lag a frame behind the action, then we need this to run as soon as possible. Now we'll repeat forever. Okay, we need a variable, Stick X, for all sprites. We'll detect the use of the keyboard first, but don't fear, the mobile controls are coming momentarily, so stick around, and we set Stick X to key right pressed. Subtract key left pressed. If we run the project, you can see that this already reports as 1 for right and -1 for left. 0 for nothing being pressed at all. That is funky. But what if we want more key combinations, like the WASD too? Well, no problem. We just place the right key check in an OR block, along with a test for the D key. But gosh, the length of this script is getting quickly out of hand, so let's break the maths up using a set block followed by a change by block. First we set Stick X to the right hand key values, and then we change the same Stick X by the negative value of the left-hand key presses. Yeah, that wants to be an OR too, for the left arrow or the A key. Great, does that make sense? I hope so, because now we do the same for Stick Y. Make sure to create that for all sprites too. And we want to set Stick Y to the up arrow or W key, and change Stick Y by the down arrow or S key. Perfect time to give that a test, just to confirm that Stick X and Stick Y variables are reporting 1s, 0s and -1s as appropriate for all the arrow keys and the WASD key combinations that we wanted. Cool, so just one more stick variable to add, and that is the awesome stick button for all sprites. And oh boy, this is the one we are so excited to have in a mobile-compatible control scheme. Use an if-else, checking for whether the space key is pressed. Then, if it's not pressed, we'll start there, set the stick button to 0. It's not pressed. But if it's pressed, then interestingly perhaps, drop in a change stick button by 1. Right now, if we run the game, you'll find holding down the space key causes the stick button to go crazy. When our game is fleshed out a little more, this will increase by 1 every game frame. But at the present, there's nothing to stop it changing as fast as it likes, which is very fast indeed. Great, we have a basic keyboard control scheme. Before we add mobile support, let's link this up to control our Scratch Cat. So in the Scratch Cat sprite, when flag clicked, position the player at the starting position. Then, in a forever loop, change their X position by 8 multiplied by our stick X variable, left or right. And in the same way, change Y by 6 multiplied by stick Y. So they will travel a little slower up and down. That's why it's 6 rather than 8. Give that a test. Splendid, that works great. And on a side note, see how stick button is now increasing much slower. I told you that would happen, right? How about we hook this up to make a jump? When green flag clicked, forever. And we simply wait until stick button is equal to 1. If we used a greater than 0, then the cat would keep jumping over and over, but by saying equals 1, it will only jump the first time the key is held down. Then switch to a jumping costume, repeat 10 times, changing Y by 10 to jump upwards, and then back to costume 1, repeating 10 times, back down again with a change Y by -10. Cool. Give that another go. Jump, 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 jump. Oh boy, this game will be on trending in no time. But enough. What about the mobile touch? Good point. Click back into this Stick Sprite and let's do this. This is all keyboard code. Let's shuffle it off into a custom block, naming it Keyboard Controls. Run without screen refresh. And move everything inside the forever loop into this new define block. Next up, we'll draw our joystick base costume. A black circle, holding shift while drawing to keep it a perfect circle, and we want it around 100 by 100 pixels wide. Or just a little over is fine. The great thing about sizing to 100 pixels is that when we size the costume to 100% in the code, it will be 100 pixels wide. And if it was 50%, it will be 50 pixels wide. That makes working with sizes much easier. Then, using the selection tool, snap the shape to the middle of the costume canvas. That's really important. Perfect. If you want to decorate it further, then be my guest. I'm going to name this costume Base. Next, drag it on the stage to where you want it to sit. Bottom left is generally a good fit. Now, before we begin looping, let's set the stick up correctly. The thumbstick is a little big for my taste at present, so size it to 80%. And use a set ghost effect to as much as 80% to fade it nicely out so as it's not too distracting. Yeah, I like that. Now in that forever loop, we'll position the stick sprite with a go to XY. And then drop in a switch costume to base. Perfect. Okay, we'll need to know the range of movement our stick has from the center to the edge. So make a new variable for this named range. For this sprite only. And we'll set range to the sprite size reporter, divided by 2.5. Now dividing by 2 would take us right to the very edge, but we want to stop the stick just a little bit before that, so 2.5 it is. Join these scripts back up, and we are ready to talk about touch interactions. So until someone actually touches the screen, we want to allow the previous keyboard controls to function. Therefore, we'll repeat until the mouse is down, And until it is, we'll keep running the keyboard controls block. If we give that a test, you'll find the keyboard controls are still working fine. Great, but this mouse down check alone doesn't guarantee this was a fresh click or touch event. We need to ensure the mouse wasn't already down beforehand, so duplicate that repeat until block and change the first one to repeat until the mouse is not down. Better, that means the second repeat will always detect a fresh new click. Next up, we don't want to activate the stick if we are not clicking somewhere nearby. So check if the distance from this sprite to the mouse pointer is less than the size of the sprite. And then make a new custom block for this, naming it Stick Activated. And do we run without screen refresh? No, we do not. Leave it unchecked because we are expecting this script to run until we finish moving the thumbstick around. Definitely longer than one game tick. Cool. Drop that into the last if. Now I'll just reposition these scripts so that we can see the main script and the stick activated script together. There we go. So to begin with, the stick will stay active until we release the mouse button. Repeat until not mouse down. And while it is active, we set stick X to, and we want the distance between the mouse pointer and the middle of the stick sprite. So that's mouse X subtract X position, the position of our sprite. But a heads up, that distance can be a large number, and we really want it to have a range from -1 to 1, like our keyboard joystick did. So we have to divide the distance by, and here we go, our range variable. Cool. Do the same for the stick Y. With the mouse Y, subtract Y position. That's still divided by range. And hurrah, because that is surprisingly the basis for a simple touch stick control. Smash the green flag and check this out. I can click and drag on the base control, and our cat moves perfectly in sync with our directions. It also has the benefit of being analog. That is, we can request slow or fast movements, rather than the keyboard's either on or off digital approach. Which, by the way, still works very well while I'm not using the mouse. Which is awesome, because our Scratch Cat Player Sprite only needs to look at stick X and Y, and yet both arrow keys, WASD, WASD, and touch control systems are catered for. Man, that's cool. What a time saver. Now, we do have one problem. We can still drag our mouse way off the base area, and this causes our stick X and Y to exceed the intended -1 to 1 limit. No problem. If greater than, and we'll use the abs value of stick X. This means the absolute value of, and it simply flips any negative numbers to positive ones. And we check whether that's greater than 1. And that will therefore be true for numbers less than -1 as well. Now, to set stick X back to 1 or -1, we divide stick X by the abs of stick X. You see, any number divided by itself is 1. But since we have an abs here, little trick, negative numbers end up as -1 instead, which is exactly what we want. Perfect. Let's do this again for stick Y. Stick Y, and stick Y. Giving that another test. And yeah, that's what we wanted. Stick X and Y are maxing out at 1. This is great for platform games, but a little different from my crazy cool Joysticks tutorial, which is still around if you want to see it, where we limited the movement to a circle. Each has their pros and cons, and we can do either. Now this part is almost done, and I'm desperate to get on to the multi-touch, but just before we do, have you noticed that when we first touch the stick, it's really hard to begin dead center, and as a consequence our player starts moving around right away. This can be very frustrating, and can lead to you losing a life in a real game, so watch this. Drop a go-to mouse pointer at the top of this stick-activated script. And now, when we run the project, The first touch teleports the stick base to our mouse pointer, and thus we always begin dead center. This prevents any undesired movement, and now that is funky, and literally a lifesaver on mobile. Cool, because we can now finally look at adding that multi-touch support. Oh yeah! To make sure we know what scripts do what, pull out all the stick movement code, and make a new custom block to house it in. Name it Detect Stick Movement. And this time we can run without screen refresh. Yeah, drop it back in the forever loop. And now make another new block, this time named Detect Stick Button. Crazy! Drop it in right after the stick movement block in the same loop. So basically, we need an if-else. And we'll be looking for the mouse down state. And when it's not down, in the else, we set stick button to 0. And just like for the keyboard version, when the mouse is down, we change stick button by 1. But this isn't going to work, is it? Because if we run the project, the first click to use our stick also triggers a mouse down jump. Oh man, this is our first problem. Well, then we must ignore the first click and not jump. We can do this with a variable latch. Set stick button to the empty value as soon as the stick is activated, but before the repeat loop begins. This empty value is our latch value. Then, in the detect stick button script, we want to wait until the latch is removed by releasing the mouse and setting stick button to 0 here. Therefore, don't set button to 1 until stick button is not an empty value. But yes, you heard me correctly, I have made a mistake while recording. This works as equal to 0, but really it should be greater than the empty value. Otherwise, it will stop at 1, and the change will never increase any further. Let's give this a test. And this time I'm going to switch to testing on my mobile phone. You can see my touches highlighted as little white circles. Well, the initial click of the stick no longer triggers a false jump. But as soon as we tap the screen with a second touch, all that happens is the first touch ends, and we are no longer registering a usable joystick. Quite the step backwards, really. The reason, of course, is that when the second touch ends, our mouse down also ends, even though one finger is still touching the screen. Only the last touch or release updates the mouse down reporter, so we no longer use the mouse down here, and instead we repeat until the distance to the mouse pointer is greater than, and we'll use a size multiplied by 1.5. I want an even larger active drag zone around the stick before it deactivates. Right, this might feel a little odd to begin with, but let's see this in action. I'll try to hold our cat still, and then tap with my second finger, and as expected, the second touch just unlatches the stick button to 0 without a jump. Click again, and we jump. And we can keep jumping with more touches. This is amazing. Look at me go. I really didn't think this would be possible in native Scratch. Wow. But there are problems. If I just let go of the left stick, Scratch doesn't notice, and it keeps on assuming the stick is held in the same position. To cancel it, we need to click on the screen again, or drag the joystick far out of its active zone. Feels weird at first, but you soon get used to it, and the point is, we have actually done it. This is now a fully working, backpackable, multi-touch joystick. And once your fingers are on the screen, it's just so easy to control. It's just lacking a whole lot of polish, like a visual stick to move around and a clickable button. But one little snag before we do. Have you noticed how tricky it is to keep the player still? In the past, we could just release the stick, but now we need to keep contact, so we really need a so-called dead zone in the middle where no movement occurs. This can either be done in the stick script or in the player scripts, so your choice really. I'm going to do it right in my player. Before we change X by, wrap that in an if, and check that the abs of stick X, is greater than some low threshold, say 0.3. The same can be done for stick Y. Right, smash that green flag. The dead zone gives us a little more confidence that we can keep our player still without having to lift our finger off the screen. Nice job. To top it off, we can then stuff a pointing direction into the change X and set direction to stick X, as long as we've set the direction mode of Scratchy to left right only, that is, and then this will let them face the way they moved. Well, they will be pleased, and so am I. That looks worlds better. Oh wait, I do believe I have a problem. I'm seeing my cat begin bouncing up and down over and over again when I hold down the button. As far as I was aware, this should never occur due to the cat only jumping when stick button was equal to 1. But as you can see, my stick button is equal to 1, and that is wrong. Yeah, that was down to that previous bug, remember, where I should have checked that stick button was greater than the empty value. Otherwise, this change stick button only runs once and never increases greater than 1. Test that again, and phew, bug squashed. A jump is now only triggered by the first click. But for the icing on the cake, we'll now give our multi-touch stick a facelift, for we are missing that iconic draggable central control stick. In the costume editor, duplicate base, naming it base active, and then click back into the first base costume and add a new white circle, making it much smaller than the first, and snap it again to the center. I think that looks pretty good, don't you? But so that we can drag the middle around on screen, duplicate this costume again, and delete the outer circles entirely. This costume we'll now name Stick. So, when we run the project, we start with a combined stick costume. So now, as the stick is activated, we must separate the stick from the base using a clone. After going to the mouse pointer, switch to the stick costume, and create a clone of myself. So with the clone made, we switch our main sprite's costume back to the base active costume, the one without the stick. Join the scripts back together. However, because we are generating a clone, we must also ensure we delete that clone when the drag is finished. For that, we'll end with a broadcast and the new message, deactivate stick. And it will be very simple. When I receive deactivate stick, delete this clone. Now, to get the clone moving along with our touches. When I start as a clone, and we'll ensure this is the stick by saying if costume name equals stick. We start by going forward by one layer. All clones begin behind the original sprite, and we want this stick to be in front of the base. Then set ghost effect to 0, so that the dragged stick is nice and bright. A forever loop, at least until the clone is deleted. And now we want to set the thumbstick's position to the same as the base. We need a trick to get Scratch to do this. Click into the Player Sprite temporarily, and now drag in a new Go To Stick block. This we then proceed to drop back into the Stick Sprite. We can get rid of this one. Then back in our stick scripts, we can pop that block into our waiting forever loop. Nice! Next, we simply need to offset this by stick X and stick Y using our change X and change Y by blocks. Just remember to multiply stick X by range to reflect the full movement. The same applies to stick Y. Cool! Smash the green flag! And you should find that activating the stick produces a bright white handle that we can move freely around, and yet it's constrained to the stick base. Perfect! So then the last upgrade we'll add is a nice multi-touch button with a helpful click to activate message to let people know what to do next. Back in the costume editor then. Duplicate the base active costume and write in white, click to, and with another text element, activate. I do it in 2 parts so that I can center align each one independently. Finally, I'll add a little arrow pointing down at the button to draw attention to it. Give the costume a name. I'm calling mine Ready. Okay, back in the code. We need the stick activated script. And where we were already creating the stick clone, we are now going to also switch costume to Ready and again create a clone. Make sure to drop these in before switching costume to stick. Order is often more important than you might imagine, and this will ensure the stick will still go in front of the base sprite. Cool then. We need to look at the When I Start as Clone block next. We already handled the stick clone here, so the button clone will be handled below this if. And we want to position this button on the right hand over here. Drop in a go to XY block, and we'll flip the X position with a negative value to a positive one, 174 in my case. That should be enough for us to already run the project and check out the basic positioning. The new button only appears when we click down on the stick like so, and oh, that looks good, yeah! And then when we release the joystick, it disappears again. This is good because it helps the player to understand how this button is to be used. So now we want to change the costume once the button is activated. So wait until the mouse is not down. Not mouse down. And switch to the base active costume. That's the one without a stick in the middle. Testing again, and you can see that the first click now clears the click to activate message. Wow, not much more to do than that, but perhaps having the button darken as we click it would be nice. So forever. If else, checking if mouse down, then set ghost effect to 25. Otherwise, set ghost effect to 75 or 80. Okay, let's do this. Run the project again, this time on my phone so that you can see how it finally looks. Left thumb on the stick, and the click to activate message appears. So click that button, and it activates. And then we can click again to jump. Oh yes, that is so cool. I'm loving how it looks, and it works just so well. What more is there to say? Except, how about we try backpacking the Stick Sprite and adding it to our classic platformer game? So here we go, dropping it right in. And we need to click the Player Sprite and find the Define Controls left and right script. Here are the left and right arrow key press blocks. And we'll pull these out and simply replace them with our Stick X variable. The check below is looking for when the key is not pressed, but we really need one of those dead zone checks for this joystick. So use the abs value of key X and check that it's less than 0.3. That replaces the key equals 0. Next, find the Define Control up and down. I'm going to replace the key up check here with a check for stick button greater than 0. If you like, you could use an OR here and also check for the stick Y equals 1 for jumping with the up arrow key. Anyhow, I think that is enough to give this a try. Let's do this on my phone again. And I have to say, this game feels a lot more natural with this new control scheme. Let's see if I can make it through the level. Wow, I cannot wait to see the projects you guys add this control stick to. As always, there's a studio linked in the description under the video, so submit your best projects there and we can all have a lot of fun trying them out on our mobile devices. So cool! As I finish, I'd really appreciate it if you would smash that like button to show you enjoyed this video. Also, if you haven't yet subscribed, do so now so as not to miss my next exciting video. As always, there's also the chance to join my channel membership. A huge shout out to my latest Patreon member, Thor Scratcher. Wonderful to have you on board. As a channel member, you get access to all sorts of perks. From channel emoji, priority replies to comments, early access to my videos, and even the Scratch projects themselves. Plus, you get to support this channel, which is just so awesome. Thank you all so much. And that is it for today. So have a great week ahead, and scratch on, guys.